So, I saw Love, Simon not too long ago, and I have some opinions, as I usually do. Was it a good movie? Yeah. Was it a great movie? No. No, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for positive representation of my fellow gays in the media. Love, Simon is an overall positive representation of gay boys, which is great. But just because it has positives doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of negatives. Negatives from generally lazy storytelling and negatives that come from straight middle-aged white people writing, directing stories about a gay teenager. First, I'm going to give a really short summary of the movie. Basically, Simon is the oldest son of a well-off middle-class family. He's in his senior year of high school. However, he's kept his gayness hidden from everybody. Then a stranger posts on his school gossip website that they're gay, and Simon emails him and tells him he's gay too. The two flirt a bunch over emails until the smart character finds them and tries to blackmail Simon into helping him date one of his good friends, Abby. When Martin does a ridiculous proposal to Abby in front of the whole school and Abby says no, out of rage, Martin posts that Simon is gay and he found the emails. The aftermath of that ensues. Some dumb bullying shit happens to Simon. His friends are mad at how Simon was messing with their love lives, but less than 10 minutes of screen time later, they stop being mad at him and Simon tells some mysterious online gay stranger to meet him on the Ferris wheel. The gay stranger ends up being his jock friend Bram, the two kiss, and the movie ends with a montage. I never know whether to start with the positive or negatives, so I flipped a coin, and guess what, bitches, we're gonna be positive first. There's a few scenes I think are totally perfect, both message-wise and production-wise. The scene where Simon is outed is totally great. I mean, other than the fact that the post Martin made is not something another human being would ever write, but that's not part of the scene I love. The way that Simon reacts negatively to his sister, even though he clearly loves her, and that she's trying to be positive shows just how much stress and frustration he's experiencing. And that's when the messages start flooding in. Despite all of them being super positive and supportive, Simon is still reacting negatively. To some people, this doesn't make sense. Clearly, all these people are ready to accept and support him. Why is he still freaking out? Well, as someone who went through something extremely similar, Simon is reacting very realistically. When I too was forcibly outed, I essentially started breaking down. And to someone who is gay, why should it matter if other people know this really mundane fact about me? Wouldn't I want people to know? At this point in my life, knowing what I know now, I couldn't give less of a fuck who knows and who doesn't. But back when you're in high school, especially if you attend a school with a sizable right-wing population, image is everything. Being gay, to sane humans, is totally fine, but to many, being gay is something that comes with stereotypes and inherent negatives. You can never fully know how someone is going to react to something that really shouldn't matter to them, but these horror stories and past experiences cloud your judgment, so you hide this important part of yourself from the world. It takes something out of you to do it for so long. The pain that comes with having to hide something that really shouldn't matter becomes familiar, and you put up with it because of that fear of rejection. So when someone, Simon in this instance, is outed, it's horrifying. Even as the positive messages are pouring in, it's also overwhelming to know that you are suddenly the center of everyone's attention. It's a tightness in your chest that forms, and it never goes away. And each time you see someone again after you've been outed, you wait with an unsurmountable worry because you can never know if this person will treat you differently or think of you differently because they learned this truly unimportant thing about you. All of this fear of the future and fear for your relationships comes crashing down on you. No amount of friendly messages will help you when this happens. It's kind of something you need to come to terms with yourself. And damn, for all this to happen to Simon the day before Christmas, and with him not being out to his family yet, that's so much stress. I'm not surprised he snapped at his sister and decided to suddenly come out to his family. The subsequent awkwardness of his family interaction is also super realistic. Similar to my family, they weren't explicitly homophobic, save for a few crass jokes, but they were constantly pushing heteronormative garbage, like Dad was. Always making jokes about Simon, like getting girls pregnant and shit. It's funny how similar the story was to my coming out, actually. But after Simon tells his family, they have this really awkward air every time they're together. And that is until Simon has a chance to approach his parents separately and talk to them about it. I think both of those scenes are great too. The dialogue between Simon and his parents is well written and meaningful. Hearing "you can exhale now, Simon" is exactly what I wanted to hear but never got from my parents. It's exactly what all LGBT kids want to hear when they tell their parents we're frauds of their sexuality or gender, because that's what it feels like to keep that hidden, holding your breath, forever on edge. Another little scene that struck home is when Martin faces Simon and tries to defend his outing Simon to the whole school. I'm going to talk more about the Martin character later, but this scene is just so well done. I don't think there's a better place to put their one allowed fuck bomb. Because what Simon has said is true. There's almost nothing worse than forcibly outing someone. Coming out is meant to be something that the person who is coming out gets to choose. They choose when and where and how, because in this current world we inhabit, being gay is this radical thing that leads to bullying and discrimination. So for our own safety, we are the ones who choose the when, the how, the where, and the who. I was outed to my extended family without my knowledge, and then I was outed to my parents by someone else. And it was horrible. The way they found out led to this huge drama in my family that split a lot of us apart. The worst part in the end was how I felt robbed of this opportunity to come out on my own pace and keep my family from falling apart. The lead actor's delivery was spot on to display all of the anger, stress, anxiety, and fear into just a few lines of dialogue. I commend him for that. In fact, all around the acting was pretty solid. The cinematography was decent, nothing groundbreaking, but it was usually visually engaging and competent. The editing was fine, the music was fine, and there were a few more scenes that I really liked. Like the one where Simon's like, once I go to college in LA, I'll be super gay, and it's purposely campy, and it has a musical dance number. Oh, and the one where they have the little coming out as straight bit. That was pretty funny too. Yeah, I think that's as far as my
praise for this movie goes. Now, onto the bad shit. Alright, so this movie's full of actors in their 20s playing as teenagers in high school, which is wildly distracting. It's also written by a bunch of straight, middle-aged adults who have no idea how teenagers act. To be fair, I think they're pretty okay at writing. It's just inconsistent. Some of the characters are decent, and some of them are so unrealistic and poorly written. The vice principal and Martin are two that come to mind. Like, holy fuck, the vice principal character isn't even close to a real human being. He just moseys on over to Simon and starts talking about his sex life. And when he sees people casually texting in the halls, he just snatches their phones out of their hands. And none of the kids ever protest this in any way. They all just roll their eyes and keep walking. If I was in the middle of texting someone outside of class time and someone snatched my phone out of my hands mid-text, I'd at least flinch. I don't know, everything this guy does just doesn't seem human. He felt like all of his lines were written by committee. Every time he's on screen, I audibly groan. And there's Martin. Oh, Martin. God, what a horrible character. Not just a horrible person, but like a horribly written, contradictory character. For those who haven't seen the movie, Martin is basically the main antagonist. He takes pictures of Simon's emails revealing that he's gay, which like, okay, pause the Martin rant because I hate this whole fucking scene. No one's acting like their character and the scene doesn't make any sense. Basically, Simon suddenly doesn't have cell service while he's at school, something that only ever happens in this one instance for the sake of pure plot. Since he's so eager to chat with this mysterious gay stranger, he decides to go to the library, which is immediately a red flag. Remember, I was an anxious, repressed gay teen myself and had several, not so safe for work things I wanted to keep hidden from my parents and friends. I would never try logging onto a public computer with that stuff for fear of being monitored, which we were. And no matter who was over my shoulder, I would never forget to log out of my secret shit. Regardless of that, even if Simon forgot to log out, the email was made under a fake name. So even if Martin got onto the computer, he wouldn't have known it was Simon's email because in the fucking previous shot we see that he isn't even paying attention to the fuck sitting at the computer before him. I hate this whole fucking scene. It's the definition of lazy writing when you have this supposed character-driven plot, but then you have random uncontrollable shit happen just because it's convenient to progress that plot. If you're going to do that shit, at least have it make fucking sense and keep it consistent. But no, later in the movie you see Simon texting at school and he doesn't have any connection problems. Lazy. Alright, now that I'm done with that garbage, back to Martin. Once that garbage scene ends, Martin finds Simon later and says he saw his email, and of course Simon denies it because it's not like Martin would have any way to prove that they were Simon's emails. Obviously he took pictures, but the worst part comes before that. Martin starts the convo by walking up to Simon and saying, "I'm not even kidding, my brother is gay," and then proceeds to use this knowledge of Simon's sexuality to blackmail him. What? That is absurd. That would be like if my brother was suffering from leukemia and I started making fun of a kid with cancer for being bald. Why did they have the fucking... Why would they leave that line in there? It's not... Why would they leave that fucking line there? Oh my god, I'm too close to them. Like, why would they leave that fucking line in there? It's not only never brought up again, but it makes Martin an even more unrealistic character. And that's just a piece of this shit pie. All of the scenes involving Martin directly are pretty awful because his character is so obnoxiously evil. The best antagonists are people who we come to understand. Since the beginning of My Hero Academia, I love Bakugo. I thought he was a massive dick, but he had strong morals and he stuck to them. I loved his character and his role. Many people come to love Loki despite the fact that he brutally murdered many people, but he was charming, quick-witted, and funny. And these are characters that exist in a complex world where people have fucking superpowers. The story is just a bunch of teenagers in a high school. How in the world could you fuck up a character this bad? It's like the writers sat down around a table and said, we need to think of a way to progress the story. I know, why don't we just pump this character full of evil, shitty personality traits, not characterize him at all? No backstory, no nothing. Perfect idea. It's just, I'm so lazy. I'm fucking so lazy, please. Speaking of lazy, the conflict Simon has with his friends in the last 20 minutes of the movie is not only pointless, but totally out of character. For the most part, Simon's three friends have been consistently the same basic people. They aren't exactly stereotypes, but they aren't very complex either. But whatever, it's a YA novel. I don't really expect anything else. Basically, Simon was blackmailed by Martin to try to get Abby to like him. Once he asks out Abby in front of the whole school and gets rejected, he outs Simon. After the best part of the movie passes, Simon's friends find out that he had been actively messing with their love lives. And they're super mad at him, overly so. And that makes no sense because the two who actually got together, Abby and Nick, get together immediately afterwards, 2 months after they might have. So it's not even like any fucking damage was done. Regardless of the amount of damage, anyways, Simon immediately tells them he was being blackmailed and they act like that's fucking nothing. They're acting as if their best friend didn't have his sexuality held hostage by this husk of an incel. What does that have to do with us? It has everything to do with you, you fucking asshole. He's supposed to be your best friend, and mere minutes of screen time ago you were supporting him as you should be. He kept you apart from this girl for 2 extra months. It's not like she was fucking dying or something. Your best friend is suffering right now. He's suffering right in front of you. Probably just had the worst week of his life and you're mad at him because you couldn't fuck Abby 60 days prior? Fuck you. What kind of a best friend are you? If anyone had any case against Simon, it would be Leah, because he set Leah up with Nick even though he knew Nick liked Abby. But even then, Simon was only acting out of pure fear of being outed. The whole scene is a running mess, and the conflict between them is solved so fast that there's no point in including it at all. Nothing happened but the passage of time, and then they suddenly approach Simon and ask him to go to the fair with him. What? Like, this feels like the whole scene is missing from the sequence. I think it's great that we're getting young adult books for LGBT kids. I would have loved to see this shit when I was 14. Maybe then I wouldn't have grown up without hating myself. But I'm going to explain why the majority of this movie doesn't work. Nobody acts like this in 2018 America. The majority of the American population doesn't give a single fuck if you're gay. And the ones that usually do care are almost always just passive aggressive. And when you hit senior year in high school, especially when you've been this closeted for this long, you don't give a single fuck that you're gay. No one acts like this. If someone tried to jump onto a table during lunch at my old school, you get screamed off of it immediately. First I thought maybe he lived in a super Republican area, but he lives in fucking Atlanta. Atlanta is so gay. I remember my official coming out to the school was the day I showed up at junior prom wearing a suit with a cute girl on my arm. That day I got more compliments than I had ever gotten before. Sure, there were those assholes that thought of me as lesser for it, but they were few and far between, and the second they tried to say it to my face, I destroyed them. Even then, their prejudice was almost always much more subtle. No one would ever do anything like this in 2018 America. The odds are, even if these kids managed to get onto the table and not immediately tackled off, they would be recorded and posted online, and these two kids would be dragged for the rest of their lives. And fuck the Ferris wheel scene. Could you scream young adult novel any louder? No one would have been standing around and waiting for Blue to show up, save for Simon's 3 friends who likely would have ditched after like 15 minutes. Almost nobody would care this much about a kid and his boyfriend or this kid and his gayness. This whole scene plays out like a fan fiction. I hated it. Fuck me. God, that peaked. Oh my god, that peaked too. In conclusion, I think my biggest critique of the movie is how safe it is. I mean, I guess making anything LGBT directed towards youth is a risk, but other than just having gay people in it, there's nothing daring about this movie. When Simon comes out to his parents, they obviously don't care because they're super liberal, meaning that even if Republican idiots who are against people did watch this, they wouldn't feel vilified for treating their LGBT kids like shit. I want an LGBT teen movie that shows how a repressed gay teen can't come out because their family is super Republican. I want an LGBT teen movie that shows a repressed gay teen that can't come out because their area is super Republican. Something like that shows just what it's like to be LGBT in those areas. 50% of the time this movie works, and the other 50% of the time I feel like I'm reading a young adult fanfiction with cringy writing and flat characters. It's not a horrible watch for repressed gay teens, but for most competent creators, much of this film is painful to watch. For now, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I just wish more talented people were making me gay movies. I feel like we got Moonlight, and it's like what else? Like, what can we do now, you know? But until then, I'll do what us gays have always done. Settle for mediocrity or softcore porn. And hey, I'll start, I'd say, until next time.